Hello and welcome to CoderzColumn. My name is Solanki, and in this video I will explain you how to create interactive charts in Jupyter Notebook using Holoviews. Now before we move on to Jupyter Notebook to create charts, let me give you a small introduction to what Holoviews is. Well, it's an open source Python data visualization library that let us create interactive charts of different kinds like bar charts, scatter charts, Sankey diagram, network plots, etc. in Jupyter Notebook. Now Holoviews itself does not create charts from scratch, but it uses other data visualization libraries as backend to create charts. We need to specify metadata about chart, like what data column to use for x-axis, what data column to use for y-axis, and it will create charts using this metadata. Currently, Holoviews supports three different backends, which are Bokeh, Matplotlib, and Plotly. Now you might be thinking, why should I use Holoviews? If it is using other libraries to create charts, I can create charts directly from Bokeh or Matplotlib. Well, one of the main benefits of using Holoviews is that it lets us create charts with less line of code. Majority of the time you will end up creating chart with just one function call, and this can save you a lot of time. Holoviews will set many chart components with very good default values, and you can also switch between different backends, and the same Holoviews code will work just fine. So you can switch from Bokeh to Matplotlib using the same Holoviews code and it will work just fine. So that was a small introduction to Holoviews. Now let's jump to Jupyter Notebook and create some charts using it, shall we? As you can see on my screen, I already have Jupyter Notebook open and we'll be creating charts in Jupyter Notebook. At the beginning of the notebook, I have outlined table of contents showing important sections of the tutorial. So we'll be covering three different chart types, which are scatter charts, bar charts, and line charts. Though we are covering only three different chart types, Holoviews supports many different chart types. I will share with you important resources at the end of the tutorial from where you can learn more about Holoviews. So let's start by importing the Holoviews as HV. And I have also printed the current version installed on my system, which is 1.15.1, and this is the latest version at the time of recording this video. So before we go on and create charts, we need to set backend, and we can do that using extension method, and we need to provide the backend name as a string to this method. So first of all, we will set backend as Bokeh, and as you can see from the output, we can see the Holoviews symbol and the next Bokeh logo next to it, which says that the Bokeh backend is loaded. Now before we move on and create charts, we need to load some datasets using which we create charts. So we will be using two datasets for our purposes. The first dataset is wine dataset. Now this dataset is available from Python library scikit-learn, and I have loaded that dataset as a pandas data frame. So currently I have executed the cell, and you can see from the result it has information about various ingredients used in the creation of different type of wines. Currently the dataset has information about three different wine types. So we'll be using this dataset to create our charts. And the second dataset that we'll be using for our purpose is Apple OHLC dataset. Now this dataset has information about Apple stocks open, high, low, and close prices, and I have downloaded this dataset from Yahoo Finance as a CSV file and loaded it in memory as a pandas data frame. The dataset has data from April 2019 to March 2020. So this will be the two datasets that we'll be using for our purpose. Now let's move on and create some charts. So the first chart type that we will cover is scatter plots. We will create a simple scatter plot showing relationship between two ingredients from our wine dataset. These two ingredients are alcohol and malic acid. We will create a simple scatter plot showing relationship between these two ingredients. Now in order to create scatter chart, we can simply call scatter method from HV, and the first parameter to this method is data, which we will be giving as wine data frame. Second parameter is key deems, which we will give alcohol. The third parameter is vdeems, which we will give malic acid. Now what is kdeems and vdeems? Well, according to Holoviews docs, kdims is key dimension and vdims is value dimension, and columns mentioned in kdims can be used to index columns mentioned in vdims. Now this might sound a little confusing as of now, but it will become more clear when we create bar chart. So let's skip it as of now and execute this cell to create. So here we have our first scatter plot, and as you can see, we created a scatter plot with just one line of code, and it was that easy to create chart with Holoviews. Now you might be thinking that many of the chart values are set default by Holoviews, so how can we modify that? So currently there are two ways to modify chart options. One is percentage ops cell magic command, and second is ops method. So I will explain you both of them. So let's copy our code again and let's modify few chart properties like height of the chart, set it to 100, width 600, X label alcohol, Y label malic acid, title alcohol versus malic acid, and tools, let's use over tools. We want to see tooltip, and I want to modify the size of points in the chart as well. That I can do using size parameter. Set it to 10. Let's set opacity to 0.7. Now let's execute this code. As you can see, our original chart has been modified. Now if you notice from the code, I provided parameter values in two different ways. One is inside of bracket and one is inside of parenthesis. So what is different between these two? Well, whenever you want to modify chart properties like title, axis label, axis text, title, tools, etc., then you will specify those parameters through brackets. And now if you want to modify the glyph properties, like you want to modify color of points, color of bars, opacities of bar, line width of the bar, etc., then you can specify those parameters inside of parentheses. Now you might be thinking that I need to remember these parameters in order to create charts, but no, you can go inside this parentheses or bracket and you can just press tab and it will show you list of parameters, and you can select any of the parameter and set value. So this gives us quite a good benefit, as we don't need to remember different parameters that can be used to modify chart. So it was so simple to modify chart options using percentage ops cell magic commands. Now okay, so, and as you can see, we also introduce tooltip. You can see that it by setting tools equal to hover, it has introduced tooltip, and we can see alcohol and malic acid value for each point. Now let's use the same code and move to our second method of specifying option. Now the second method of specifying option is using ops method. So what we can do is that we can save the result of scatter into a variable named scat, and we can call ops method on it, and we can give exactly same parameter which we gave over here. Right, let's copy all of this. As you can see from the output is same as earlier, but this time we have modified chart properties using ops method. Now with this method you will need to remember parameter types, whereas with percentage ops magic command we were given option to select any parameter by pressing tabs. We were given suggestions. Now in case of ops we don't know what is parameter names and we will need to remember it. So yeah, that's all. Now at the beginning of the tutorial I told you that Holoviews support different backends, like other than Bokeh, it supports two other backends which are Matplotlib and Plotly. So how can we change backend? So let's we can change backend using extension method. So let's change backend to Matplotlib now. Okay, so the cell is executed and now the backend is Matplotlib, which you can see from Matplotlib logo over here. Now how can I create charts using Matplotlib? Well, I can use the same code which I have used for Bokeh. So let me try and execute the same code, and as you can see now it has created chart using Matplotlib. Now the charts dimension are not same as the earlier one. So as far as I know, the parameter name for specifying chart width and height is fig size for Matplotlib. So let me specify it to 400. Let me execute one. Okay, so now it has modified the chart. Let me set it to 300. And the parameter to specify size of point is s. So let's do that. Let's set it to 50. Okay, so now this one looks little good, and as you can see there can be minor change in parameter names across backend, but majority of the parameter have almost same name across different backends. So that was Matplotlib backend. Now let's try Plotly backend as well. So I have set backend as Plotly using extension method. So currently it's loading. Okay, it has completed, and you can see from the logo over here next to Holoviews logo that Plotly is loaded as a backend. So what I will do is that I will copy the same code which I had used for Bokeh and I will execute it. As you can see now it has created chart using Plotly. So as you can see I was easily able to switch between different backends, which is very plus. Now before we move on to our next chart type, let me introduce one more scatter chart to you guys. So till now we created a very simple scatter plot showing relationship between alcohol and malic acid, and all of the chart points were covered with single color. Now what if I want to cover chart points according to wine type? So we have three different wine types, class 0, class 1 and class 2, and I want to cover chart points according to those wine types. So I want three different colors in chart for points. So how can I do that? So let's create a scatter chart for that. So I will use our code, and what I will do is that in order to do that I just need to filter my original data frame. So class 0. So this will filter the original data frame and take entries which are of class 0 only, and let's say label class 0. Okay, let's create second scatter plot of class 1 and third scatter plot of class 2. Now we have created three different scatter plots, one for each wine type. Now how we can combine that? Well, you can do that very easily using star operation. So we'll do that scat2 and scat3. But before we execute this code, let me set my backend again as Bokeh, as I want to create that chart using Bokeh. So now let's execute the code, and as you can see I have chart points colored according to wine type. So it was that easy to create chart using Holoviews. Alright, so let's move on to our next chart type. The second chart type that we will introduce is bar charts. So I want to create a simple bar chart showing what is the average alcohol use per wine type. So let me print our wine data frame once again. As you can see, I have a column name wine type where I have different type of wines as a string. Like we have 3 wine types as we discussed earlier, class 0, class 1 and class 2. And I want to know what is the average alcohol value per wine type. So what I can do is that I can use group by function from Pandas, and I will group entries by wine type. And at last I will call main function to retrieve average values of ingredients per wine type, and I will save that result in average wine df data frame. So let me print it. As you can see now, I have average ingredients like alcohol, malic acid, etc. per wine type. Let me just reset index so that wine type is one of the columns of our data frame. So now we will create a simple bar chart from this data frame. So let's do that. What I will do is, in order to create bar chart, we need to use bars method, and data will be average wine df, kdims will be wine type, and vdims will be alcohol. Now this time you can see that key dimension is categorical variable, and this can be used to index the value dimension. So for class 0 we have this alcohol value, class 1 we have this. So this is the difference between key dimension and value dimension. Majority of the time key dimension is categorical column of our data. So now let's set some of the chart properties like height, average alcohol per wine type, okay. If you want to set bar width, then you can do that using bar width parameter. Let's set it to 0.85. X label will be wine type, and Y label will be average all. Okay, let's execute. Okay, we simply forgot comma. As you can see on my screen, we have created a simple bar chart, and this is the bar chart of average alcohol use per wine type. So let's just modify the color. Tomato, let's modify width to 500. Now this one looks little good compared to the previous one. Okay, let's move on and create one more type of bar chart, which is grouped bar chart. Now in order to create a grouped bar chart, we need to modify our average wine data frame. Now I want to modify our average wine data frame in a way that the final data frame has 3 columns, which are wine type, ingredient and ingredient value. So the final data frame will have 3 columns: wine type, ingredients name and ingredients value. So the first row will have value like class 0, then alcohol, then 13.74. Second row will have value class 1, 12.28 alcohol, and then 12.28. Third row will have class 2, alcohol, 13.13. Fourth row will have value class 0, malic acid, and 2.01. So I want to modify our original average wine data frame. So I can do that using melt function available from Pandas data frame. Now I need to set id vars parameter to wine type and var name ingredients. Okay, let's execute that, and let's say value to. Now let's store the result in another data frame, melted average wine df. Let me print first 10 rows for you. Now as you can see, I have another data frame named melted average wine data frame, and it has 3 columns: wine type, ingredients, and value. Wine type has a different wine type, class 0, 1, 2, and ingredient is ingredient name, and value as a value of that ingredient, which is the average value of that ingredient. Now I want to create a group bar chart. I want to see like what is the average value of different ingredients per wine type. So as of now, I have selected 5 ingredients, which are malic acid, ash, total phenols, U, and the proanthocyanins. Okay, so let me create a group bar chart. So as usual, we can create bar chart using bars. Now data will be melted average wine here, but I will filter the rows of melted average wine df, where ingredients is in ingredients which we have selected. We want to only keep rows for these 5 ingredients, and we don't want rows from other ingredients, so I have filtered based on this ingredient. K-dims will be, this time K-dims will be wine type and ingredients. Let me move it to next line, and V-dims will be value. Now you can see the K-dims is wine type and ingredient. Both of these are categorical variables, which are the key dimensions, and based on this variable we can index our data frame and retrieve the value. So let's modify some chart properties, like let's say width to 700, height to 500, title to average ingredients per wine type, and so okay, I think this one should work just fine. Let's execute the code. Okay, there was a minor warning because I forgot equal to over here. Let's execute the code, and as you can see, it created a group bar chart, and we have a group bar chart showing average ingredients per wine type. Now the labels are little overwriting one another, so what I can do is that I can specify X rotation 45, and I also want that I can see average ingredient value when I hover over any bar. So what I will do is I will set tools equal to over. Right, let's execute this one. Okay, now the labels are not overwriting, and whenever I go over any bar, I can see like what is the value of that ingredient, hue, and all that. So that was a group bar chart. Now let's move on and create one more bar chart type, which is stacked bar chart. Now creation of stacked bar chart is very easy. I want to create a stacked bar chart showing average ingredient hues per wine type, and we will again use this 5 ingredients. So that is the reason I have copied the previous code over here, so we can reuse majority of the previous code, and we just need to specify few more parameters to make it from group bar chart to stack bar chart. So there is a parameter called stacked, and we need to set it to true, and that's it. And there we have our stacked bar chart. Alright, let's move on to our next chart type. Okay, so the third and last chart type that we will introduce is line charts. And what I will do is that I will create a simple line chart. So we earlier loaded the Apple stock prices as a Apple data frame, and I will create a simple line chart from this data frame. So I want to see like what is the stock price movement for close prices of Apple stock. So what I can do is that in order to create line chart, we need to use curve method, and the data will be Apple df. I'm just calling reset index because I noticed that date is present as index, but I want it as one of the columns of data frame. So the kdims will be date and what vdims will be close. And let's modify some chart properties like $100 and width equal to 800. Title will be Apple close price. April 2019 to March 2020, and let's set tools to over. All right, let's execute the code, and as you can see now we have our line chart. So that was a simple line chart displaying one line. Now what if you want to display more than one lines? So we can do that. What I will do that I will create another line chart where we have more than one lines, and in this chart we plotted only close price. Let's plot all the four prices: open, high, low and close. So I will use the previous code, and in order to do that we need to create 4 line charts. So let's say line 1 is close, line 2 is open, line 3 is high, and line 4 is low. And we have 4 line charts, and we can merge them using star operator as we had created scatter chart earlier using this star operator. It's 3 and lines 4. And all right, so we have a line chart showing 3 different line types. Let's add legends. Label equal to close, open, high and low. Okay, now we have legend. So that's it. So here is a summary of the charts that we covered in our tutorial. If you want to learn more about Holoviews, I would recommend that you visit our website CoderzColumn, and you can simply search for Holoviews over there, and it will show you a list of tutorials we have on Holoviews. As you can see, we have plenty of tutorials on Holoviews explaining different chart types like network chart, Sankey diagrams, chord diagrams, and we have a detailed tutorial on Holoviews where we have covered many different chart types like heat maps, box whisker plot, violin chart, histograms, etc. So yeah, that's it for the day. If you like our video and if you learned something from our video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you want to learn more about Python and you want to see more such tutorials. And yeah, see you next time.